Hello and welcome once again to Super Connectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is...
Phil, Filmy, and Parrish.
Now, I know a lot of you are worried because you have heard over on World's Finest and the Marvel Roundup that this would be the last episode of those respective shows. But I will tell you today, that is not the case for Super Connectivity. For the connections continue long after this episode. We will be on both Enough Said and the Capes and Lunatics podcast. So if you subscribe to both, you get to hear us twice a week. So, it'll be the same episode, but you love the reruns. Because you do have to listen to Super Connectivity more than once, because you always miss something the first time. At least that's how I see it. Okay, Philip. Let's get to connections and news from the week. What do you most want to talk to about this week? Pick a topic, Phil.
Should we talk about that ending of Secret Empire number 2?
Let's talk about that Secret Empire number 2 ending. Now, for those of you who have already listened to the roundup, you do know that the ending of Secret Empire number 2 had the return of a bearded Steve Rogers saying he just wanted to get home. And that makes everyone go, dun dun dun! What does this mean? There's a lot of theories out there. One theory that was proposed by George Marston over at Newsarama is that this may be a Cap from Dimension Z. And he makes this point about Captain Zealandia, the Captain America clone that was created by Arnim Zola, who is on Cap's High Council. I'm not sure I buy that. And as we had discussed in the previous roundup, the main reason I don't think this is the Cap from Zealandia is that he is A, in fatigues, whereas Cap in Zealandia always kept his uniform, and B, his fatigues are ripped and there's no uniform underneath. He also has no shield. Which makes me think this is a Cap from another universe. And I think this is the thing that we have to understand. When Kobik changed Cap in this universe, she was changing Cap in this universe. Now, there are other Caps that, from that point on, are changed as well. But any Cap from a universe other than this one, other than one springing off of this 616 subset A, any of those other Caps that you would find, like the Cap in 1829 or 1899 from which Redwood comes, all those Caps are like the real Cap. They are all men of honor and goodwill who believe in the founding principles of America, as in, equality, fraternity, and egalitarianism. That is the idea that all those Steve Rogers have. Now, is this the real Steve Rogers from this universe? No, it is not. But who this Steve Rogers is in the HydroCap universe is a very interesting question. Now, some people have pointed out that Ultimate Cap was a pretty fascistic dude. Did you read any of the Ultimate Captain America stories, Phil?
Oh yeah, I read those original Ultimate books. Yeah. He was a lot more. He didn't have like the softer edge of like 616 Cap. Yeah, he was like a down and military man and.
Yeah, he was a violent fascist. Arguably because he believed in America. And he was the guy who comes off as the hero in comparison to guys like Nuke. It's like, well, I'm not nearly as crazy as everybody else who had the super soldier formula. I think it's telling that the Cap in that universe is also the father of the Ultimate Red Skull.
Oh yes.
Which is the other person that you might have, because as we've said, one of the things that we're left with at the end of Secret Wars is that when Franklin put all these universes together, he didn't have all the pieces. And so he had to stick together certain parts of certain worlds. That is why X-Men 92 exists in the same universe as Renew Your Vows. Originally, they were very much separate worlds, but now they are one world and the same. And certainly, I think that is a lot of what we're seeing in the current Marvel Universe, is that a lot of people from the Ultimate Universe were brought forth and were put into this universe as well. And so, in that way, I wonder if maybe Ultimate Cap was the Cap that came over. Because as I've said, 616 Cap died with the death of 616. That Cap died fighting Tony Stark. So the Tony Stark we see now and the Cap we see now are either whole cloth creations by Franklin or versions of Cap and Tony that were pulled from other parts of Battleworld. And I think that's important. I think that what we're seeing here is something very important. And I think that in many ways, the return of bearded rock and roll Cap, because he looks like rock and roll from the old G.I. Joe cartoon, is in many ways sort of a red herring. He's made to make people think that there's something other than the heroism of Cap at play, and I myself am the big, I was the guy saying, well, maybe Cap is from the kinder, gentler Hydra. Maybe Cap is from the Hydra that is out to do good. And, if Hydra is an offshoot of S.H.I.E.L.D., we already know S.H.I.E.L.D. does evil all the time. So isn't it possible if there's an evil S.H.I.E.L.D., maybe there's a good Hydra? And I was sitting there the whole time, even as I ignored what was going on around me. So I think with this new Cap, he is, again, something that's meant to distract you and say, oh, that's the real Cap. That's the Cap that's going to be the hero. And I think that in the end, no, he's not going to be. I think that the Cap that is Hydra Cap is the real Cap, is the central Cap. And he may get reverted back to normal, but what he becomes after that is what is going to make the story interesting. Now, did you have any interesting thoughts on this, Phil? I know you have a lot, so I'd like to hear yours.
I have two big theories about who it could be. Okay. I kind of got into the first one on Roundup, where I said maybe he was plucked out of the timeline somewhere. The first thing I thought is when I saw the beard on him, the storyline I think of where he had a beard is back in the 80s when remember when John Walker took over as Captain America, and for a couple issues all we saw was John Walker. We didn't see Steve Rogers. When he reappears, he's been like traveling around the country trying to find himself, and he's got a beard just like the one he had here. And I'm thinking, could that be the time frame he's coming from? Because he, like you said, he didn't have a Captain America uniform under his but he wasn't wearing that military looking thing though. So I don't know, but because you were saying he didn't have a uniform, well, at that point he wasn't Captain America. But then I was thinking, well, what if they put him from earlier, like World War II, like sometime in World War II or after, before, whatever. But are they going to? Because I mean, Marvel's shown they've done that before. I mean, look at the young original X-Men. Older Cyclops is dead. You got a younger Cyclops and Jean Grey running around. So is that what they were going to do? Because I mean, look, they're still talking about that Generations thing, and looks like like original Cap, at least uniform wise, with Sam Wilson. So is that how they're going to get that count?
I'm going to give you one other. You know who this Cap could be? William Burnside.
I was thinking, I'm like, oh, it's probably going to pull the Burnside card.
I'm always going to pull the Burnside card. Now, but here's what's interesting. This could be Burnside from the past.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine a world where because we know it's not the current William Burnside because there's no burn scars.
Mm-hmm.
Because the current William Burnside has a lot of burn scars on him.
But wasn't that before Secret Wars?
Well, that was before. But here's what I'm going to say. So you have 50s Cap who went to Korea. Okay. And so maybe he's in his Steve Rogers persona. Because remember, he adopted the name Steve Rogers. And he gets lost behind enemy lines. And this is before the serum starts to degrade. So he's still the idealized Captain America. But he gets lost, and then craziness happens, and he's trying to find his way back home. And he finds some way to travel between, to teleport in some way. And what if this is a pre-madness William Burnside, who, when he does get back, he's still Cap. And he says, no, that's not the story of Captain America, what they're telling you. That isn't reality. I know what reality is. And he's going to have his own, semi-fascistic way of approaching things, Here's the thing. I think that, like I said, I think that this Cap is meant to be a misdirection. I think it is meant to be a misdirection that we're eventually going to see is just as much the fascist Cap that we're seeing in Hydra. Because I think what we really have at the corner of this is what you might call a nature versus nurture question. Captain America, because of the way he was nurtured, allowed his nature to become that of a superheroic person. But if you alter the nurturing, his nature stays the same. But because now he was nurtured towards a different end, his view of the universe has changed. So the Cap we see as Hydra Cap is a Cap who, rather than waking up every morning to the promise of the American dream, was a Cap who woke up every morning to the promise of the United Hydra. And, this is this idea that I think it's hard for people to wrap their minds around. People were raised in a world where they were not given other perspectives on the world. And this is true for most of human history, and it's arguably even true to this day, with the fact that there are so many people, and I'm not even going to eliminate myself from that. There's so many people who will look for the source of media that confirms their own bias. I myself like to think I'm way more critical than that, but I can't. I can I can be honest in saying I can never know the truth of my own self because I am always biased to my own perception. You know, whatever you see as reality will always seem like the most rational and real reality because you've already internalized it. I know certain tricks to look for when I'm digesting my media to see what is, filler and what is nutrition media wise. But I'd be a fool to say that all of my media is propaganda free. I know darn well. What I will say is because I know where the propaganda is in my media, I believe I'm better at sorting through it. So anyone who doesn't, and what I'll say is anyone who doesn't say my media diet includes a fair amount of propaganda, I'd say I question the validity of your media diet. But that's me. But the thing is that if you grow up in a world where your media diet is exclusive to one thing, and you don't know the difference, it is so much harder to grow beyond that. Especially if you think about a character like HydroCap, who, up until Kobik, didn't have his full history, quote unquote, revealed to him. So, from his perspective, he still has this youthful, idealized Hydra in his mind. And what we're seeing in the HydroCap storyline is him becoming slowly disillusioned by the things he must do, and then the mounting animosity of the other members of the inner circle towards him. And I think that's what we're seeing in the main Steve Rogers book and much of the Secret Empire book. Like I said, I do think I think that they haven't lied to us. That is still Cap. He is Cosmic Cube influenced Cap, but he's still Cap. As much as this universe has a Cap, because as I've said, real Cap, 616 Cap, Kirby Lee created Cap, died at the end of the last incursion.
I don't know about that. You want to hear my other theory?
Okay,
which
what's
is
your theory?
probably, well, the other theory, it's probably not what it is, but I mean, when you're dealing with Kobik and everything, anything's possible. What if she split him down the middle? What if she separated Steve Rogers from Captain America? So what if Hydra Cap is Captain America? And at the end of the guy at the end of Secret Empire 2 said his name is Steve Rogers. There was no there was no Cap uniform. He didn't call himself Captain America. So what if she separated Steve Rogers from Captain America? At the end of Secret Empire, which they added another issue to,
because it is Marvel.
Yes, because 9 issues isn't enough. So what if at the end of Secret Empire, Captain America dies? We still have Steve Rogers, but he has to relearn to be Captain America.
Well, there's another aspect to this, which is the best. What is the best Superman film ever made, Phil?
In your opinion, Superman 3?
Superman 3. And what is the central premise of Superman 3?
Well,
there's several important points in that why it is just such a fantastic film, the best Superman film ever made. But the fact of the matter is that you have this idea of Captain America, or the idea of Superman and Clark Kent being, I don't want to say discrete beings, but that there is the good and there is Kal-El, the superhero.
Mm-hmm.
The man who puts on the tights and is full of his own power, and the inherent corruption in that power. And then there is Clark Kent, the man who has just as much power, but who knows that the responsibility of power is knowing that humanity has to find its own way. And those who seek to put their will above others are people who cannot be allowed to do so. That sometimes you got to punch a Nazi. And that is what we see in Superman 3, the idea of the Clark Kent coming to face the Superman and saying, you are not what Superman should be. Because the glory of Superman isn't that you have powers. The universe is full of people with powers. Arguably, every person from Krypton has just as much power as you do. You are just an average guy from Krypton who just happens to be on a planet where people aren't average people from Krypton. What makes you the Superman is that you are respondent to humanity and the nature of humanity and that need both of protection and of allowing humanity to have its freedom. It is the inherent parent's conundrum. As a parent, you are always so much more powerful than your children. But you know that in order to raise a good child, you have to let it be free. And you could try and control it and hold it in place, but you know as a good parent that is not a successful strategy. And so if we do have that separated Cap and Steve, it is about what it means to be a hero. And maybe, last week we had talked about the pulling apart of Steve and the Skull. Perhaps this is this idea of, just like in Superman 3, we'll get that merging of Cap and Steve, and it'll be the real Steve again, and the real Cap again. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see exactly what Kobik did. There's another option, which is that we raise the question of where did Franklin get this Steve Rogers?
Mm-hmm.
Because if Steve Rogers died at the end of the last incursion, and Franklin is trying to recreate a universe with a Steve Rogers, and we think about where there were Steve Rogerses to pull from, there were two places to pull Steve Rogers from in the Secret Wars world that we saw. One was Red Wolf's world of 1899. The other was in the world of Hail Hydra, where there was a Hydra Cap who realized how disillusioned he had become by Hydra and found what few heroes he could to build his own Avengers with Sharon Carter. And what if that is the Hydra Cap? Because it is the real Cap. It is as much the real Cap as anyone. And to that extent, look for this thing. Look for the return of Ian and Shannon Hydra Venom. I believe her name was Shannon Rogers, which was Cap and Sharon's daughter, who got infected with the Venom symbiote, but then she achieved symbiosis with in that Hail Hydra storyline. And in that universe, and we know that at the end of Hail Hydra, Ian and Shannon returned theoretically to this universe. Because remember that in the last time they got into the infinite elevator and they went to somewhere else and it opened up on Battle World in the Hail Hydra universe. Then he went back to try and get back to his world. But of course his world didn't exist at that point, but where they might have wound up might have been the world that Franklin created. And in that world, perhaps Ian will come to terms with the Cap that is here. Yeah, it is a very, I mean, it's interesting and it's debatable what we're going to get. You know, there's so much chatter about the HydroCap story right now. People that want to tear it down, people that want to build it up, and it does strike me how much this has worked out well for Marvel. Because I do feel that the mark of a good story is how passionate it makes people. You can be passionate for it or you can be passionate against it, but that it makes you passionate tells you that this story reached you and made you want to hang out on message boards and talk about it. Made you want this to be the topic of conversation because this was important. And there are people that will defend it. I mean, here's the thing. I will tell you this. Philip K. Dick wrote a story where Hitler won World War II. I don't think Philip K. Dick was a fascist. That stories have been written in various comic book stories where there are alternate universes where the Nazis won. I don't think that makes anyone a fascist. But there are people who right now feel that people that are writing stories where Nazis win must be catering to the Nazi audience. I disagree, but then again, I'm only one voice. And everyone is entitled to their own view of these stories. Everyone is entitled to love or hate these stories as much as they want. And that's a good thing. That's how you know we don't live in a fascist regime, is that we are still allowed to love or hate the media of our choice. Anything else to say about HydroCap tonight, Phil? Do you have any more theories or ideas you want to throw out there?
No, I think that was all my theories on HydroCap.
Okay, so let's just cover the end of our Superconnectivity with a little bit of Marvel news. We got the end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the introduction of next season. Which, spoilers, if you haven't turned off the thing right now to avoid spoilers, I'm going to assume you don't mind the spoilers. We see our final scene of last week's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Phil in space, getting back to work. How exciting is that? Although I will say this, and this may be an homage that a lot of people missed, because it opened up with Phil waking up in his room, looking out the window at the asteroid, saying, time to get back to work. Everyone may think this is an introduction of S.W.O.R.D. But the structure of that scene reminded me much more of the opening scene of To Serve Man from the Twilight Zone. Do you remember that episode, To Serve Man?
I'm not remembering the. I know it. I'm not remembering the details.
So, To Serve Man opens up at the UN, and these aliens come down with their amazing technology in their scarcity-free world, who says, we will give all these things to you, humanity, and all we ask in return is that we work out a exchange program so that some of your people can come to our world and see how wonderful it is, and we can send our people to your world and see how wonderful it is. And all of our plans for humanity are encoded in this book. They hold up the book in an alien language, and they give it to the code crackers who are working on it. And they say, and say, well, we've worked for 6 months, and we finally cracked the title. And it says To Serve Man. And they say, oh, well, that's a positive thought. And the very final scene is the guy getting on the ship to fly away, and his assistant runs in and says, Mr. Chambers, we finally translated the book. It's not what we thought. It is a cookbook. And to me, because in the beginning of that, the first scene of that is a man waking up in the space room, looking out at the world and knowing where he's at and realizing, and that it's much more depressing because it's like there's nothing else to do. Here, what the work Phil may need to do is get to escaping. So to me, as much as people may want Sword, I saw that final scene as him saying, "Got to get back to escaping. Got to get back to freeing me and my people from being served up to the supreme intelligence, quite frankly." Because they're the ones that are most upset about all of this. But we're not.
But also,
yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna have a little wait because they're gonna do the first 8. Well, Inhumans is gonna be 8 episodes, and then Agents of Shield after that. And I guess they're moving it to both the Friday nights.
Yeah, and you know what I'm so glad about the Inhumans is, you know what I look most forward to about the Inhumans. I will no longer have to listen to people say, "Well, Iron Fist was the worst show Marvel ever put out." Oh, I have so little faith in Inhumans. I look at this, and I will say it again. It was because they didn't get Tatiana Cott to play Medusa. This show, it's going to be a train wreck. It's only 8 episodes. So presumably it's going to be a relatively small train wreck.
And Friday night at 9 o'clock.
Yeah. And it might have its moments. It might be interesting. There might be some, ooh, look at that. And, oh, what a great plot twist. But no, it's not going to be good. It is not going to be good. It is going to make Iron Fist look good. Because in many ways it has the exact same problems as Iron Fist. Which is that it has a limited budget and a far too traditionalist superheroic story. Essentially, the argument for the Inhumans is it's Game of Thrones with superheroes. Which would be great if it was a superheroic universe with a Game of Thrones. Not for nothing, Game of Thrones with superheroes is Squadron Supreme. Well, no, it's the idea of or it's Kingdom Come, or it's Twilight of the Gods, written by Alan Moore. Which is very Games of Thrones because it has all the crazy sex stuff in it in Twilight of the Gods. Or Twilight. Was it called Twilight of the Gods or Twilight of the Superheroes? I forget what he called it, but it's actually an interesting story, but it is very. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Alan Moore, he is an aristocrat's joke come to life. That's a bad thing. I'm sure he's a really sweet guy. I'm sure both of his wives love him very much, and hey, I'm no man to judge you for having more than one spouse, and that's good for you. If you're fool enough to have more than one spouse, that's your choice. That's what I say. But but very much, that is Game of Thrones with superheroes, is Alan Moore's Twilight of the Superheroes. What Inhumans is going to be, I think at best it's going to be the Tudors with superhumans, not even necessarily superheroes, but just superhumans. And at worst, it's going to be, just. We have superpowers, but that's not unusual where we are. And we're not going anywhere else because we don't have enough budget to do Inhumans in a superheroic universe. What was interesting about the Inhumans is they debut in Fantastic Four. So it opens up with this idea of, hey, we're superhumans. It's like, well, but we're the superhumans. And it's like, well, now we have to fight, But if you just have all the superhumans up in Adelan, and they're just, basically, making love and making war with each other in a single city, it's not that interesting. And so, yeah, I don't have a lot of high hopes for Inhumans. But Phil, if you have some positive thoughts, share them with us, because I'd like to feel better about Inhumans.
Crickets.
You got nothing, yeah.
No.
That's fine. Okay. Final thought for tonight. The big breaking news today. Well, actually, okay. There's two. Feige made statements recently about how much he wants the Fox universe. He wants, his goal is to have all the Marvel characters at Marvel. That, he said that they have a very positive relationship, and this gets everyone worrying, or actually chatting. Honestly, Marvel can do no worse with the Fantastic Four, and X-Men is up for negotiation, so maybe there's something going on there. I'm not worried about it. But the other interesting story today is that Sony announced they are in negotiations with a guy to play Venom. Or actually, to be more specific, not Sony, but someone wrote a story that says they talked to someone at Sony who said that they are getting, what was his name?
The actor?
Yeah, the actor.
Tom Hardy.
That Tom Hardy will be playing Venom. It's interesting. Yeah.
The same man who played Bane in The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, okay. So with that kind of pedigree, I am Venom, and you. I can't even do Venom with a Bane mask. Yeah, I mean, we don't know if they're going to be doing an Agent Venom storyline. We don't know what the relationship between the symbiote and the actor is going to be, or who the actor is going to be. But it seems, and this is what I think is important, is that it is separating Venom from the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
And of all the long list of bad ideas in comics, I think that is one of them.
Yes.
The idea that Sony is going to try and tell a Venom story without a Spider-Man, it makes no sense since Venom is defined in contrast to Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever they're doing, I'll buy my ticket. I'm not going to lie, but, I am not holding my breath for that right now. Because if it's not bound to the MCU and the Tom Holland Spider-Man, now here's what I'm going to tell you. If they're going to have Tom Holland as a character in that, but a minor character, I'm cool with that. And then we're going to get what this Venom's origin is from Venom's perspective. That might be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And not for nothing, as a fun point in that, Fox can use Deadpool. So you can actually have a whole thing about Deadpool and the symbiote meeting up and Deadpool accidentally corrupting the symbiote. So that might be fun.
But isn't Venom Sony and then Deadpool's Fox?
Oh, I'm sorry. I got myself confused. Yeah, never mind. I forgot who everyone owned for a minute there. For a minute there, I was thinking Spider-Man was owned by Fox. It's getting late, kids. But yeah, so thank goodness one of us still has energy to keep focused. Yeah, so then never mind any of that. So then it's just there's a Venom symbiote and a guy who wears it. And he might be John Jameson, he might be
Eddie Brock,
he might be Flash Thompson. But honestly, at that point, once you're venomizing that person, who they were before Venom becomes much less important.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in that. Beyond that, Supernatural is doing a animated crossover with Scooby-Doo. Which should be interesting for all those Supernatural fans out there. And then, this I thought was very interesting. Remember how we did this whole crossover with all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons and the DC line? Although, real mad we never got Jabba Jaw versus King Shark. I think that would have been fantastic. And if they ever do that again, Jabberjaw and the Neptunes versus King Shark and the Suicide Squad. That is going to be a story to be told.
Nice.
Yes, or just King Shark and some other group of villains, or just King Shark versus Jabberjaw, and they should do the hipster Jabberjaw where he has the soul patch. If you ever saw that reworking of the alt rock Jabberjaw theme, that was cool. That was on Boomerang. They did a lot of videos after the Saturday morning rock cartoon CD came out at the same time as the Schoolhouse Rocks CD came out. Both were very good. But they did not on that is a Jabberjaw theme, which Boomerang actually made a nice video of. So look for Boomerang video Jabberjaw theme on YouTube. You'll probably find it. It's actually really nice. Okay, but they're doing this with Warner's characters. So we have Bugs Bunny joining the League of Superheroes or the Legion of Superheroes. You have Wonder Woman facing the Tasmanian Devil. You have Martian Manhunter versus Marvin the Martian. I don't know what these crossovers are, but I have to say, after the Suicide Squad Banana Splits crossover, I'm intrigued by these. I really am. I will say this. And I like the idea of DC bringing their Warners and Hanna-Barbera universes into their mainstream DC universes. What do you think, Phil?
It's interesting. I don't know. I'm a little leery sometimes. I'm just like a money grab. But I mean, if it's entertaining, I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, get some more exposure for all these characters.
Yeah, Phil, let me allay your fears. It's always a money grab.
Oh, I know.
It is never not about the money. It is always about how someone's going to make money on this gig. That said, it looks interesting. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be as good as the Banana Splits. And again, we're not getting a Jabberjaw. But it does seem interesting. But that actually brings me to what I want to talk about is our final thought, which is that, and this goes kind of to what we've been talking about in Humans and other things, is that DC is, and CWDC is bringing in another character, Black Lightning, in January, I believe. Yes. And saying he won't be bound to the Arrowverse. And I could see it if he was on another channel, but you're going to have the WB with its Arrowverse, and then you're going to have, and not for nothing, it's also that the Arrowverse is established to reconnect back to the Supergirl universe. And then all of a sudden you're going to have this third universe. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But that's me.
Well, I think the whole thing is they said they're not going to have more than 4 DC shows on the air at a time. Cause like the big crossover always comes like the beginning of December, and if Black Lightning doesn't start in January, then he's not going to be in that big crossover. And then I don't know, when some or all the shows are on break, Black Lightning's going to be on. Like if Legends takes a break, they usually only get like 16 or 17 episodes, then Black Lightning's going to be on then. So I think it's just a scheduling thing more than anything. Plus they said all the other DC, all the Arrowverse shows film in Vancouver. Black Lightning is filming in Atlanta. So I get that, like most of it's just like a scheduling and a logistics thing, I think.
Yeah, but then again, like I say, for the quality of the finished product, I've never liked it when. Actually, I don't even know where I'm going with that. I was going to do something about Medusa, but now I've lost my train of thought. But I just worry about it being its own separate thing, because I think, and like I said, to tie it back to the Inhumans storyline, that it is most likely its own separate thing, even existing in the established Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's worrisome and it's disturbing. So, you know, I hope for the best for Batgirl. I hope for the best for all of the DC shows, for Black Lightning, for everything that they're putting out there. Actually, Batgirl's going to be a movie along with Nightwing.
Yes.
Although, again, do we know, are those going to be within the DC Cinematic Universe?
I think they're supposed to, but I mean, they really haven't given us many details yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Oh, one final thing. Early responses to Wonder Woman are coming in, and they're generally positive.
Mm-hmm.
Much to, hopefully that allays Lilith Hellfire's fears. Or maybe they will compound them, because maybe she feels it's all propaganda. I don't know. But we will have to see, and we will see that when we get to the Wonder Woman review and Capes and Lunatics. Following this show, if you're following on the Capes and Lunatics feed. If you're following us on Enough Said, then you got to get over to Capes and Lunatics, like that channel, and just wait for all the wisdom to come. Any parting thoughts tonight, Phil? Yes.
Follow both Enough Said and Capes and Lunatics.
Yes.
Because you'll get original content on both that you won't get on. Well, I mean, you'll get Superconnectivity on both, but there are shows you'll get just on Enough Said. There's shows you'll get just on Capes and Lunatics. So spread the love and rate and review all the podcasts, please.
Because there's a lot of
Helps
love to go around. Okay, so Phil. Phil, do you want to give your social media?
Sure. If you want to ask me what it's like to work with the very hardworking and tired Charlie Esser, you can email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. And like Charlie said, follow us, the Capes and Lunatics, the podcast, and follow us on all social media.
Yes, and of course you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on Twitter as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Incredible Hulk, 7 o'clock on Saturdays, and whatever the hell else I feel like as I feel like it. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Thank you for connecting with us once again, ladies and gentlemen. Please connect with us again. Good night.